Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Made You Book. My name's Gretchen and today I'm going to be doing a review of The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. So you have probably seen this book everywhere. I know that there are a lot of YouTubers out there that have already reviewed this book, and it's also been on a lot of the literary publications best of lists, and it's even Barnes & Noble's Book of the Year. So there's a lot of buzz around this book, and for good reason. It is absolutely phenomenal. But if you're someone that's still on the fence about reading it, I hope that I can convince you to, because I don't think that you will regret it. So this book starts out with a bit of a mystery. So it is 1972 in Pennsylvania in a place called Pottstown, more specifically an area of Pottstown called Chicken Hill. And we have some excavators that are out there digging up the ground, and they stumble upon this old well that has been capped, and when they uncap it they find a human skeleton. So that's kind of how the book begins. Now we have this mystery of who the bones belonged to, how did they get there, how long have they been there, etc. And then from there we go back in time to the 1930s and we start meeting an incredible cast of characters. So the first thing that I will say about this book is, although it starts with a mystery, this is a very character-driven novel and less about the mystery and the plot. But don't let that discourage you from carrying on, because we do figure out the mystery when we get to the end, but this book is so much better than the mystery alone. So when we get back to the 30s, we start by meeting a couple named Moshe and Chona. So they are Eastern European Jews that have settled in the area, and Moshe is kind of the town's entertainment proprietor. He owns the local theater, and he is, everybody in the town kind of loves him because he brings in all of these great musical acts and keeps them entertained. And then we have Chona, and Chona is the heart and soul of this book. She is like the mother slash grandmother of the entire town. She is a light, she's a beacon within the town, and everybody adores her, and for good reason. She's loving and kind, and she's accepting of everyone, and she, for being in the 30s, she's very free thinking and progressive, and she's kind of very much the type that is like, bring me you're tired, you're poor, and she wants to take care of everybody and make sure that everybody has what they need and they're okay. She's always willing to take in a stray as well, which brings us to our next kind of group of characters. Oh, I did forget to mention that Chona also runs the Heaven and Earth Grocery Store. So we then get into our next group of characters, and we have a man and a wife named Nate and Addie, and they are a Black family that has also settled in that area. And we run into, or we learn about, a little boy that has recently been orphaned. His mother has passed away, and his name, they call him Dodo, and he is deaf. And he was recently deaf due to an accident. So he was hearing at one point in time, and so he can still talk, and he eventually learns how to read lips. And basically, one day they get wind that his mother has died. He is now an orphan, and they plan on moving him to this facility. I believe it's in Philadelphia, that they want to move him to. because now he doesn't have a mom. But the town kind of rallies around Dodo, and with Chona taking the lead, they figure out a way to protect him and hide him and keep him in Chicken Hill with all of the people that love him. And from there, you know, we kind of just start to get into some of the subplots, and we learn more about the town and its inhabitants, and we learn a lot about some of the horrible people in the town as well, and the surrounding areas. And at some point in the story, there is a horrific event, and basically Dodo steps in to protect Chona, and from there the rest of the story kind of unfolds. And we talked about that little mystery at the beginning, and I know a lot of people get into this book, and having that first chapter be such a hook and kind of get you with that mystery. I've heard a lot of people kind of not be happy with that subplot and think that truly this novel could stand on its own without that mystery, and they're right. Like, I think that this book could have been done without that, but for me, I actually enjoyed the mystery, and the mystery kind of further solidified how genius McBride is as an author. Because when I get hooked at the beginning of a book like that, and there's this mystery that needs to be solved, I always focus on that mystery so much. I'm constantly trying to figure out who it was, who did it, all of those things, and I very rarely can get out of my head and forget about that mystery. But McBride does an amazing job of distracting the reader from that mystery that happens at the beginning. And we learn that, oh, okay, I was 3/4 of the way through the book and we started to learn, and I say learn, it's very evident who was in the well if you are paying attention at all in the book. But once we started to get into the true explanation of the mystery, I was actually like, oh my gosh, I forgot. I almost forgot about that part happening at the beginning because I was so engrossed with everything else happening in the book. And because the mystery could have been removed, I know some readers have questioned why McBride put that in there. And for me, I absolutely loved the element of the mystery, because when we talk about the inhabitants of Chicken Hill, so you had your Black community, you had your Eastern European Jews, they were able to come together and live as a community. And although they didn't thrive, I mean, thrive is a very strong word, they made it work. They lived together, they got along, and although they had their ups and downs, they were still a community and they were still there for each other. And I think that when you have these two groups that outside of Chicken Hill, in the rest of the town and the state and the country, they were the underdogs. There was so much bigotry and hatred and inequality for Blacks and Jews at that time. The fact that they were able to come together and create their own little haven, I think that that was a beautiful thing. And the mystery kind of, for me, it allowed me as a reader to get some satisfaction out of some people that were trying to tear down what they built as a community. The fact that some of those outsiders that had their evil tendencies got their poetic justice. And I think that that's why McBride included it, because when we finally get the official word of who the skeleton was and how they ended up there and all of the events, and actually, I hate to say this, but the events were actually kind of funny on how this person did meet their demise. It was absolute poetic justice for me, and I was elated that this person got, in my mind, what they deserved. So I think that, you know, that is why I liked that plot. But if you're truly looking for a super mystery-based book, you're definitely going to be disappointed in this. But if you're looking for a strong, character-driven novel that's going to give you faith and hope in humanity, this is an amazing book to read, and I highly recommend it. This book I could definitely see being considered a modern American classic, you know, 30, 50 years from now. And this is actually my first James McBride, so I know that he's written, I think, at least 2 more that I'm very much looking forward to reading. So I'm really curious if any of you have read this, if you, like, what your thoughts were about the whole mystery element, whether or not you enjoyed this book, whether you, you know, thought it could stand alone without that mystery bit. And also, if any of you have read any of McBride's other books, if you think that one is better than the other, or which one I should potentially pick up next, please let me know. And until we read again, bye!